What up, people? It is your boy, Daddy Noland. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and do homework 11.1C. Now, if you're in regulars or pre-AP, it's all okay because it is all the same homework today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with quadrant number 1. Home sales days on the market. Answer the questions below using the box and whisker plot. Well, I'm going to start by labeling my box and whisker plot. Okay. Notice you have 5 dots. This middle dot right here is known as your median. Now, we've already had videos on how to find your median, mean, mode, range, first quartile, third quartile, IQR, all that. Now, you're given a box and whisker plot, and we're going to have to figure out what number goes where. Okay, so this middle one is my median. This 20 right here is your first quartile. I'm going to call him Q1. This one right here, this third dot, is known as your third quartile, or your Q3. What do you think the dot at the 0 represents? Well, the dot at the 0 is going to represent your lower extreme. It's the lowest number that you have in your data. I'm using LE for lower extreme. Therefore, the dot at the very end is your highest point in your data, so that's going to be known as your upper extreme. All right, so here we go. Question number 1. What is the median? Well, here's the median. It is at 40. What is your first quartile? Here's Q1. It is at 20. What is your third quartile? Q3. Oh, it's between 80 and 100. What number is exactly between 80 and 100? 90. What is the range? The range is your biggest number, which in this case, the dot is at 120, minus your lowest number, which in this case, your dot is at 0. So 120 minus 0, which equals 120. So the answer for the range is 120. Are there any outliers? The answer would be no. The only way you would see outliers if there are x's past your upper extreme or your lower extreme. See how I put these x's here? Those would represent outliers, but we don't have any on this picture, so there are no outliers. What is the upper extreme? Upper extreme, 120. Lower extreme, 0. Now it says, what percent of houses are sold between 40 and 90 days? Oh, well, check this out. So we're talking about quartiles. There are 4 quartiles that we deal with. From the first dot to the second dot is your first quartile. It represents 25% of your data. From the second dot to the third dot is your second quartile. That represents 25% of your data. From the third dot to the fourth dot, this represents 25% of your data. And from the fourth dot to the fifth dot, that represents 25% of your data. You're going to say, well, the shapes don't look even. Well, that's because just the way it is even, it's just the data is spread out. So notice here we're covering numbers 40 to 90. That's covering a lot of numbers, like test scores. Covering from 20 to 40 is not as many numbers in between, but it's still 25% of the data. So the question says, what percent of the houses are sold between 40 and 90 days? Well, here's my 40, here's my 90. That represents 25% of the data. All right, let's see if we can move on to quadrant 2, which is Histograms. All right, so number 9. Which interval represents the most number of students? So if you look at your histogram, I'm just going to go ahead and outline it because I want to. All right. So between 0 and 9, how many people visited the pool between 0 and 9? Well, the top of this is at, looks like 5. How about from 10 to 19? Looks like there's 3 people. How about from 20 to 29? Looks like there's 12. From 30 to 39, it looks like there's 6 people. And from 40 to 49, looks like there's 2 people. All right, so which interval represents the most number of students? Well, the most number of students is right here at 12. Its interval is between 20 and 29. How many students went to the pool at least 10 times? Well, 0 to 9, that's not 10 times, right? So we're looking for 10 and more. So we have to add all 4 of these because they went to the pool at least 10 times. 3 plus 12 is 15. Plus 6 is 21. Plus 2 is 23. So 23 students. How many students went to the pool less than 10 times? Well, that's this interval right here, and it looks like there was 5 students. What data, if any, is clustered? Guys, clustered means that each interval has some stuff in it. It means there's no zeros. There's no, like, how do you put it? Like, there's no non-shading, I guess would be the best way to put it. Okay. Notice they are all bunched together. They all have students in each interval. So what data is clustered? It would be this entire histogram. It would be from 0, 9 through 40 to 49. Okay, I'm going to give you a picture of a histogram. I'm going to make this one up. That is not clustered. Okay. So if this was my histogram, this is all shaded in, this is all shaded in, this is all shaded in. These all have students in there. But y'all see this small thing that has no one in there? That would not be clustered. This small thing that has no people in it would be known as a gap. Okay? All right, so the question says, is there a peak? A peak. Is there a high point on the histogram? Well, yes, there is. It's right here. It has 12 students. That interval is 20 to 29. Does the data have symmetry? Guys, symmetry is like a butterfly. If you've ever seen a butterfly, the wings on a butterfly are exactly the same. Both wings are exactly the same. So if I look at this histogram, does it seem like it's going to make the same shape all the way around? No, it's not. This is just cattywampus. It's not even close to being symmetry. So does the data have symmetry? No. All right, let's move on to quadrant 3. The Johnson family kept a record of the length of telephone calls they made in one weekend using minutes. Make a dot plot. Okay? So, we have a number at 8, so I'm going to put a dot at the 8. And I'm going to scratch it out so I don't use it again. Then I have a dot at the 7. Scratch it out. I have a dot at 3. A dot at 9. A dot at 6. Another dot at 8. Notice how I'm doing a second dot right above this first one. Dot at 9. Another dot at 8. A dot at 4. another dot at 8, a 7, a 7, a 10, another 7, another 8, a 9, a 4, a 9, a 4, a 7, an 8, an 8, and a 6. Alright, so there's my dot plot. Let's see if we can label or solve our questions. So the first question says, what is the median or the middle of the data? Alright, so y'all remember when we put our numbers in order from least to greatest, I always tell you one off the front, one off the back, one off the front, one off the back. Same thing here with our picture. One off the front, one off the back, 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 front, back, front, back, front, back, front, back. Oh, I have one dot left over, and it's this one right here, and it is at 8. So the middle of my data would be 8. Now, if you don't like the way I just did that using my dot plot, then put the numbers in order from least to greatest. Write out all the numbers in order from least to greatest and do it the other way I showed you. Maybe that's easier for you to do it. What is the mode? Which one has the most dots on it consecutively? That would be the 8. That is the mode. What data, if any, is clustered? Y'all see all this data right here? There's no gaps in between. Each one of them has at least one dot. That right here is known as your cluster. All your data is bunched up in this little area. That would be from 6 to 10. Are there any gaps? There's a gap right here at 5, but we're not going to write there's a gap at 5. You write there's a gap between. The gap is between 4 and 6. The gap is between 4 and 6. That is how you will write this, and that's how you write it on your test. Is there a peak? Is there a top of the shape? Right here. The top of the data is right here, and it's at 8. Does the data have symmetry? Well, if we look here at this shape, it starts off good, but then it has this small decline right here at the end. So if it wanted to have symmetry, I'd have to have another dot right there, but I don't. So no, there is no symmetry. Close, but it's not quite it. Alright, the last one is the stem and leaf plots. I love these. Alright, the stems is your tens unit. The leaves is your ones unit. Now, if you notice, every single one of these numbers is either in the 50s, the 60s, or the 70s. I'm going to start with the 50s. So my tens unit is in the 5s. My tens unit is the 5. So what's your lowest number in the 50s? Well, I got a 58 so far. Do I have anything lower than a 58? Oh, right here, 54. So your tens place is the 5. The ones place is a 4. Just imagine if I got rid of this line, I now have 54. Okay. The next one would be the 8, so for 58. And then the 9 for 59. Notice how I'm not putting commas between here. You don't put commas between there either. Alright, then we get to move on to my 60s. So I have a 60. What's the next one I have? Looks like a 64? Yes. Then it looks like I have a 66. I have another 66. I have another 66. I have a 68. And I have a 69. Now it looks like we get to move on to the 70s. So I have a 70. I have a 71. I have another 71. I have a 72. And I have a 73. All right. So I'm going to start with question 23. What is the range? The range would be the biggest number minus the smallest number. Well, your biggest number would be 73. So 73 is your biggest number minus your smallest number, which is 54. And it looks like that range is going to be 19. The mode is what number repeats the most. Well, if you look in the 50s, there's nothing that repeats. If you look in the 60s, 66 repeats 3 times. If you look in the 70s, 71 repeats only 2 times. So which number repeats the most? 66. Now the median, once again, is the middle number. Now, again, this is the way I like doing it. I don't like doing extra work. Make it nice and easy. One off the front, one off the back, one off the front, one off the back, one off the front, one off the back. Front, back, front, back, front, back, front, back. Ooh, I'm left with this one number, 66. Alright guys, I hope this video helps you out, not just for you to get your homework done, but to get you ready for your test that you are taking next Wednesday. Remember, this is the last math test you have in math class this year. That does not include the STAR, just a regular math test. Guys, study. I can't emphasize how much I've said that this year. Study your vocabulary, because if you don't know your vocabulary, you're not going to do really well on this test. If you know your vocabulary, you should ace this test because it's not that hard. All right, guys. You guys have a great evening. Talk to you later. Bye.